This is the Daily Saints Pod with Zach and Greg. Speaking of the Daily Saints Pod with Zach and Greg, I'm Zach, and my wonderful co-host Greg is over there. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, mate. How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad. As the fact that it's me presenting today probably shows you that it's some sort of long-winded essay-style episode, and you'll be right. We had Greg's I'd say long-winded, but not really, because it was very interesting to see some of the numbers, and I think it's generated a little bit of a debate around the place as to where's all our transfer fees in your episode yesterday. So let's bring it back to something a little bit more exciting. Let's bring it back to the transfer we saw happen at the beginning of the week, one that we weren't really aware of until like the day before, and that is the transfer of Canadian player Cyle Larin. So yeah, what do you know, Greg? Is it just what you've read in the profile? How much digging have you done into the bloke?
Not huge amounts. I've seen a couple of videos, some on the good side, some on the bad. It depends whose Twitter account you're looking at.
It's one of those things where, like, I think that what it actually is that a lot of Canada fans kind of just want a significantly more prolific striker and get frustrated at his missing. But yeah, he's had a couple of misses that are pretty bad. That is, like, I feel like a staple of being a Saints striker anyway, regardless. Yeah. Like, not every single striker we have ever had has been prolific as we think they have been. Even the Danny Ings and the Lamberts and the Pelez and, that, this, that, the other. Like, it's always been a problem. So,
the most important thing I know and that I've seen is his Schwarmerad.
That's important. We smashed that into the ground after me and you arguing for ages as to whether it was a fajita taco, which you were adamantly against, or a burrito, which I was adamantly against. And it turns out we were wrong entirely. It was not even in the same type of food, technically. So there's that, and that's been good. So yeah, those are kind of like some of the bits of. And there's also been floating around a mugshot of him that will come up briefly later, but I don't want to dwell too much on sort of the weird, like, personal lives of all of our players. If we start doing that, it'd be a different podcast entirely. So, born in Brampton, Ontario, in Canada in 1995. He is 6 foot and 2 inches, Greg. So you'll be happy to know that we've actually got another tall striker for the first time in what feels like a while, right?
It's 6 months since the last one that we signed.
Yeah, to be fair. 6 months. Well, to be fair, he's not here, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on anyway. Another fact that I've just picked out specifically for you, mate, is that he has an overall rating of 77 on FC26, which I know means a lot to you. And maybe some of the audience, not really a whole lot to me.
I mean, what that means, mate, is that he has just been fed into premium gold upgrades as fodder any time I've come across him in any of my games.
He had the gold badge, so I guess some gold backgrounds. I guess that's what that means. Yeah. He's always been about football, and since a young age, he joined a private soccer academy in Ontario at 11 and spent a whole 6 years there before graduating. He did quite a lot of jet setting. They did a lot of jumping around to different training grounds in Germany and Belgium, like Bremen and places like that. So, like, he kind of was already doing a lot at kind of a younger age, right? Usually in academies and stuff, of course they'll like jet set around, but you don't quite know how intense it can be. And when he finally sort of graduated and he'd picked his university, which is the University of Connecticut, the technical director described him as a rare player to find in Canada, a complete and modern striker able to play with both feet, finish from all areas, dominate his region of the park, and provide for his teammate. Obviously, this was like 2013, 2014, so bear that in mind. That was 12 years ago.
That's important, right? Like,
yes, it is. It's like that.
That's experience on that, but natural talent is one of the key elements we need, right? So
it's the thing we've always asked for, right? And he was quite prolific for his college team. He scored 23 goals in 39 appearances. And it resulted in it going well for him. So there was talk about him potentially moving to Europe. And I think at one point he even came back and helped his old academy team win a tournament directly after he finished his time. But he ended up opting to stay sort of in the American college system, which means that Greg, it's about to get NFL like, right? Where if you're an NFL person, it will make sense. But basically, he was the number one first draft pick, and that was a huge deal. And he was the first Canadian to ever be the number one draft pick. And the team that had the number one draft pick that picked him immediately was Orlando City, and that would be a very, very worthwhile pick for them. In his career from 2015 to 2017, he scored 44 times in 89 appearances in all competitions, including 8 assists. So this is probably one of his best time, and a lot of people compare him to his time in the MLS. And obviously, it's because if you've developed in an academy in that kind of area, and yeah, he played in Canada and lower leagues when he was younger, but that was kind of, once you go from that university, it's very much a isolated environment, right? The MLS is a very different beast to what we have, and I mean that in the sense of Bradley Wright Phillips was their top goal scorer for like a while, right? which I think people would be surprised by. But then, like, if I remember rightly, it was a guy from like non-league was battling out with Lionel Messi to be top goal scorer the other year. So it's very, very all over the place sort of league. But that was probably where he had one of his best times. And in 2015, he won the Rookie of the Year award. He consistently picked up a few Goal of the Week awards and Team of the Week. He was also part of the 2016 MLS All-Star game against Arsenal, which they did lose 2-1, but like it's MLS versus like Premier League team, innit? So you'd have to. He did have a desire to move to Europe, though, and got his wish in 2018 in January with a move to Turkish club Besiktas. There was a bit of controversy surrounding this, as technically he was showing up, he was refusing to show for practice, right, before he moved. And this is where I'll allude to it one and only. He had a bit of a troubled time during his last year of his career at Orlando City, and there was some personal stuff off the field which affected his international career. Not that much. Basically, DUI caused a bit of an issue. Obviously, it meant that he couldn't play in the MLS for a little bit. Affected what was going on when he was internationally as well. Kind of got over that. There's not really been anything since, but obviously that will be disruptive, and obviously wanted to change. So pretty different, I'd say, Turkey and Major League Soccer. So yeah, it was all good. The transfer fee was undisclosed, but it turned out to be a good move. He actually scored on his debut against Giuseppe in a 5-1 win, coming on as a sub. Obviously, we're looking long before the heights that Giuseppe are at now, but still kind of just like found it quite poignant that was the first goal he scored in Europe was against a club that's technically part of our wonderful multi-club model, which we all really, really enjoy.
That's a fun tie back. I like that. That's good.
But yeah, exactly. Put it this way, it's a bigger link than the link that he has to Saints before that. I sent it to Greg before the show, who described it as tenuous at best, but I still look forward to reading it out later. So that season he scored a hat-trick, and also did so in the Europa League, and it was a really good start, but it wasn't an easy season for him. It meant that the next season, he was ended up loaning out to Zulte Wagram in July 2019. So they are in the Belgian league. He then, during that time at that club, made 33 appearances and scoring 9 times, but also assisting 10. So did pretty all right. But it's going to start a pattern, right? Of he had a good sort of solid season with the club, and then doesn't. And then obviously what they do is like loan him out. So he then returned to his parent club in Turkey and had a much better 2020 season. He actually scored 4 times twice in that season. Once in a 6-0 win over Rizespor, and then in a 7-0 win over Hatayspor. Not very good with Turkish pronunciations. By the way, pretty good for considering that it's like, for me, it shows somebody that has the ability there to get back after dropping off, right? Like it doesn't go away, but it's probably going to worry some of the people that's hot and cold. And I'll talk about the level of gamble it is later. But it shows there's a little bit of gambling there. But obviously what's happened here is that, he had a rough season after his first season, went on loan, picked up his confidence a little bit, and then had pretty much the season of his life. He won silverware that season as Besiktas won the league. He was also the joint second top goal scorer with 19 goals. So he had a solid season that year. And yeah, like obviously they won a couple of other bits of silverware, like the Turkish Cup and things, this and the other. And then it just wasn't that great the season after. Again, it kind of like managed 7 goals, and that was when his kind of time at Besiktas came to an end. In his 109 appearances, he managed 39 goals and 9 assists during his time in Turkey, and that career then came to an end, and then he moved on. So yeah, it was kind of a mixed bag, like a little bit of a loan in the middle that actually seemed to do him some good. Impressed enough for somebody in Belgium to come pick him up. But now we're going to get the sort of start of these sort of lackluster spells. So he's been through one recently,
though, mate. Like you were saying,
it's not a small amount.
39 is decent, and you said there's quite a lot of assists in there as well. Clearly, a big player who, I mean, taking a guess at Turkish league based off of experience watching it in the past, probably quite a good hold-up player whose assists are probably coming from holding the ball up and finding a pass off. So, kind of pretty much exactly what we're looking for, right?
Yeah, it's going to suit how we play and how we're transitioning to play more, right? Like you saw it kind of start to happen with Will Still before Ross Stewart got injured. And now that Armour's gone, they've opted to replace him with somebody of that profile. And I think that, as we've discussed before, everyone kind of assumed Downs was that profile, and he really wasn't. And that kind of is probably, in my opinion, down to the recruitment team for not identifying that correctly, or the coaching team for not coaching him, or him also having trouble adapting to life in the UK. Maybe a combination of all of those. But hopefully it's a better fit. So we'll have to see. But he went back to Belgium, and this is where you've got another bit of a downturn in his career, right? So it was like a €10 million transfer, and he had a bit of a torrid time. So he signed a 3-year deal, but he made 13 appearances, scoring just once. He did pick up a bit of silverware where he came on as a sub in the 2022 Belgian Super Cup with Club Bruges and won that. So there is that. But yeah, his move to Club Bruges was not great, right? 1 goal in 13. Not ideal. But that resulted him being swiftly sent out on loan in January, and it kind of reminds me of how we swiftly sent out Downs on loan, right? Sort of, there are parallels, and I'm not just saying that because they're both from like Canada and America, respectively. Just in the sense of if you don't hit the ground running, there can be a problem. But it's not the end of his story, half of which. So he went on to play for Valladolid, sorry, excuse me. And there he was on a loan with an option to buy and scored in his debut, coming on as a sub and scoring the only goal in the game. He scored 8 times and assisted 3 in his 19-game spell, so much better than how he managed at Club Bruges. And ultimately, his team was relegated, but the loan was made permanent for €1.5 million. Before he kicked the ball for them again, he was sold to RCD Mallorca in the summer of 2023 for about €8 million. So they, if anything, got a striker for a little bit of a period of time, got a profit off of him. I couldn't work out if there was a loan fee between Bruges and them. I don't seem to think there was, but it might have just been that it's undisclosed and wasn't obvious. But either way, it's a bit of a loss for Club Bruges, but a little bit better for him. So it took him a while to settle at Mallorca. So bear in mind, he was signed in the August. He didn't score his first goal until December. So I'm really hoping that isn't going to be the case with us, right? Because we can't afford like a 3 or 4 month wait for him to score a goal at this point. At that point, it's going to be deemed unsuccessful.
Yeah.
So he did manage to help get them to the Copa del Rey final that season, but they lost to Athletic Bilbao. He did only manage 7 goals, but was the club's joint top goal scorer, which says probably a lot about the quality of the Mallorca team at that point, right?
Yeah, they're still goals.
Yeah, they're still goals, and then he also basically the same season after, right, another 7 goals, and that was kind of the end of his time at Mallorca before he was sent on another loan to Feyenoord in the Dutch Eredivisie, their league, where they're flying high at second. And although he's had like 15 appearances for them and only scored the 1, I think that he hasn't had quite the minutes that he'd have wanted. So it's very much sort of like limited to substitution appearances. So considering, I don't know how it's going to be here, whether or not they're going to bring Ross Stewart on later and sort of start him, but I have a feeling that I don't know what conversations took place, but surely the conversations would have been, I would like to play more. So there's that, but one goal and one assist in his 15 games before coming to join us isn't great, which is probably what a lot of people are rolled up about, and I can understand. But we've also seen this happen before, and then he goes on to actually do something quite substantial at his next club. So we just got to hope that we're like the in-between club and see how it goes. But in sort of total across his 354 games, he scored 116 goals and assisted 36 times. This is excluding his international career, which I'll get onto in a minute. But yeah, so it's a bit, roughly around like 1 in 3. And some of these, I think that some of the stats are a bit skewed, because if you're scoring a couple of hat tricks and you're scoring 4 goals in a game and then 4 goals in a game later on, you might be saying, Greg, like, 19 goals is really good. But if half of those goals took place over 3 games, it depends how vital and how important they are. That's not to diminish that. It's just that, it's a statement, it's a fact.
It shows that there's goal scoring ability in there, and that, it kind of is still, the stats still reflective. It's still a lot of goals. It's still more goals than a lot of our strikers have scored over the years. And even when you look at the most recent season, you're saying about his time where you said it was like 1 goal in 15 appearances, but basically all of those have been appearances off the bench from what I've been sort of looking at in the background. So, I mean, if an appearance is a 5-minute spell off the bench, then those stats aren't going to, please anyone. Right,
yeah, it's exactly the opposite to my point, right? Is that although 4 goals might be scored in 1 game, if you're going to say that it's if 3 appearances, but those actual appearances are 15 minutes in total for across 3 appearances, it's not really the same. We all know that it's sometimes where I feel for Archer a bit, right? Where like they expect him to make an impact off the bench when he's proven not to be able to do that really. With 15 minutes to go, or times where we're just bringing on a player at like 85 minutes, and that's going to lock down as an appearance, but it's not really, is it? It'd be interesting to see how they could ever change that in the future. But
that season where I said it was quite good, it was like 7 goals. That is almost twice as many goals as Paul Ohanechu scored for us total. So
yeah, and again, there's I think the interesting thing for me is he's clearly played around a lot of different experience and a different bits of quality, right? Like he's with a team that's been relegated. He's with a team that's won the league. He's with a team that, he was a solid part of. Obviously, like MLS is completely different. It works like the Super Bowl. It doesn't really matter where you come in the league as long as you win the important games, right? Like basically very similar to the Super Bowl. So yeah, very, very sort of different. But being able to play and have experience in all those different leagues, like Belgium and all that stuff is brings vital experience. I think that some of the criticism will come with, well, the thing that we needed the most experience in was the Championship, and we haven't picked up a striker from the Championship, and it is a very, very different type of league. And we'll get onto his personal reasons why later, because as much as everybody is talking, as much as he said it's because he wants to play in England, there are probably ulterior motives at play, and that's fine, because if they work out
big competition coming up this summer that maybe wants to get his name in football, right?
Don't reveal all of my hand at once. But yeah, speaking of which, he's an international player for Canada, and he briefly appeared in the under-20 squad for 5 games, scoring once in the 2015 CONCACAF Under-20 Championship. He was already kind of around the first team at this point and had been picked in the roster. And that was when he kind of started. And I'm not going to go through all of the individual stats around his international career, because as we know, international career is a bit of a different beast. And I remember when I covered Yoshida and I tried to cover his international career, and I realized that, to be honest, it probably needs a deeper dive in his own episode, because there have been lots of conversations, especially Twitter, people being mad. And I think that if you have a look at some international strikers and how they play internationally, and then you compare that to their club form, they're 2 different things, right? Club football, international football, very, very, very different things. And as much as they might complain that he's not as good and he's missed some sitters, which he has, there in one of the articles, this literally talking about how he just missed a sitter against El Salvador, and everyone was mad because he should have put it away. And yeah, he probably should have, but then that's football, isn't it? It's always going to be if you score like 100 goals and there's one that's really bad, a lot of the time people will remember like the absolute worst one. It's why we were talking about goalkeepers the other day with like, Peretz giving Boric vibes because of the fact that Boric would pull off some worldies, but also like none of us can forget him kicking the ball out and it just going in the net. Like, it's just really the wind had a part of it, but it's one of those sort of things. But he ultimately at one point he was the top goal scorer for Canada of all time. Jonathan David has quickly overtaken him, but he's been to multiple CONCACAFs. He's been part of multiple competitions. He was the World Cup qualifications for CONCACAFs, top goal scorer in the 2020 to 2021 season. So to be fair, it was the season that domestically he was having the season of his life, right? So of course he's probably going to be doing better. But in total, he's made 87 appearances and scored 30 times for Canada. So yeah,
pretty good. Pretty good for that's a lot of international goals.
Exactly, and like again, before people were like, "Oh, well, the competition isn't exactly," I think that it's probably a tougher competition in that qualification set than like we have, right? Like we have our top goal scorers, and like there have been times we've been in like groups of like San Marino. like I'm sorry, like I feel like you need to probably take away at least like 15 goals from all of our strikers for the times they've played teams that are woefully underneath them. And Canada had a big problem with goal scoring for quite a long time, and he kind of broke that a little bit. And you don't get to be the top goal scorer for your country at any point unless you actually put away goals. And
that's what you managed to do. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that, right? You've got to be good enough to get picked to play for the country.
Correct.
And then be good enough to get into the position in an international team where you might not have as much chemistry with the players around you and be in the sort of knowing the positions, and then be good enough to put them away. So it's good. Proven experience, quality. These are all qualities that we, wanted and have asked for. So, it seems, like I say, not without risk, as you've said.
No, yeah, I've got a bit of a spiel to go into about that later, but it is one of those things where, like, with what we had available at the time, like, we don't know how long that armour move took. Like, it could have taken place over the space of a week. It feels like that wasn't something that was decided early on in the window, because it feels like things would have happened and we would have known more about it, mainly because just stuff leaks out. Like all of the players we were trying to bring in, like not a single one of them until like the last week before, any of the rumours, any of the information, no smoke without fire, all of that was just like a central midfielder here, somebody for the academy there. None of it was linking us realistically to a striker. And in fact, I think a lot of people are kind of going, oh, we don't really need one. What we actually need is somebody to back up Leo and things like that. So again, like I feel like it's kind of, by the looks of it, they've tried to pick someone that fits a profile with a very short period of time and somebody that is going to be a gamble. We can talk about that in a minute, though. So I just wanted to point out that he is part of an agency, and I always like to look at the agency to see if they have any Saints links. And his agency is Axia Sports, which are they seem to just be representing lots of Canadian players, right? Ismail Kone who used to play for Watford for like a little bit. That's like the only championship link I could find. The Jonathan David, obviously one of the higher profile players, plays for Juventus. Probably the best known Canadian player. And this is my extremely tenuous link that Greg laughed at. So he is in the same agency as Derek Cornelius, who is a left back from Marseille, currently on loan to Rangers, who joined Rangers when our ex-manager Russell Martin was in charge of Rangers.
Yeah.
And that shows you that like it's not like he's had a chat with one of his mates and they put a word in. This must be completely like organic scouting. This isn't anything other than that, right?
Yeah.
So the real question, Greg, why is he joining us? Now, you've kind of alluded to it. He said it's because he's wanted to play in England for a long time, had an itch for that. I imagine that's probably correct. It's also because he wants a place in the Canada team where his stock is dropping and they're about to have the big World Cup. And it's probably going to be, realistically 30. Are Canada going to have a chance next time round? We don't know. It's probably one of his big chances to actually play it. 1 goal in 15, though, regardless of, the fact that it's limited to substitute appearances, doesn't cut it, does it? Let's face it.
No.
He didn't get the minutes that he wanted, but with us, there is an opportunity to do that. And this is the bit about the gamble, Greg. So for us and him, it's a gamble. And from a Southampton fan point of view, and I can understand it, I'm sick of gambling. However, what with the caveat that that is not his fault, and he should not be judged before he even kicks a ball in a Saint shirt. And that's what
Agreed.
already seems to be happening, right? Like, this is not his fault. He has taken the opportunity to join us. He's picked us. Yes, there is motives for him. And again, like that was similar. The reason it's similar reminds me because obviously Dan's was the same where he wanted to solidify his place in the USA team. Didn't get a chance to do that with us, and has obviously realised that he needs to get first team football and has gone elsewhere to be able to do that. And we've facilitated that.
Look, that doesn't bother me in the slightest. Any extra motivation or drivers you've got to provide hunger on the pitch, for me, can only be a good thing. Like I say, looking at the positives, highly experienced, has a desire to do well specifically in this period of time for a reason, wants to, improve his player minutes, which is fine. Like I say, he's going to be getting plenty of minutes, at least, if minimum, as the other half of Ross Stewart, right? So that's fine. Naturally talented and knows where the goal is. All right, so has spells of good and bad in the past. Who doesn't? I think your profile has definitely helped me see the positives in it for sure. And like you say, judgment's reserved until you see what he can actually do for sure. But I mean, you say it's a gamble, and you're sort of sick of gambles. But I mean, I guess the position we're in is, what choice do we have? Like, we've alluded to it time and time and time again. Like, there is no golden unicorn guaranteed gonna hit the ground running and score loads of goals striker. Like, even if you bring in someone with championship experience, like,
Yeah,
it's
we've
still a gamble.
discussed that, right?
So,
Like they wanted to bring in Danny Ings in the summer, and he's gone to Sheffield United, and so far has done a whole lot of nothing.
yeah.
The other points I'd want to make is like Leo was a gamble. Leo is kind of an unknown quantity that, he's risen through from the second division to a Bundesliga team, but was also in the Swedish like fifth tier. That's a gamble. It's worked out fantastically for us, but it was a gamble. Yander was a gamble. We don't really know a lot. He's quite young. Matty Fernandez was a gamble that netted us a massive profit. Admittedly, as per our episode yesterday, kind of annoying that we don't see any of that money anywhere near the club. Downs was also a gamble. It didn't pay off. But like, the problem is that it's with the cards they have to hand, what else are you supposed to do? Right, where are you getting on deadline day a striker? Should there have been more planning? Should the conversations maybe have taken place earlier? Should they have, maybe done more to convince Adam to stay? Yeah, no, you can roll the dice around it all that you want. But like, the expectation was this guy was supposed to return to the MLS, a league that's been kind to him, but he knows that he needs to do something big. And we are that big gamble for him. It's equally a gamble for him as it is for us, right? And either way, like, I don't know whether or not he'll be able to prove us wrong this weekend. I don't know whether he'll be in the team or not. Maybe he'll be on the bench. Maybe he'll start. Obviously, it's only been a week. Either way, I'll be rooting for him, and I hope the fans do too. And I think that if you are annoyed, point the direction it needs to be, which is the board, which we're all starting to do now anyway. And like, everyone's sick of it. But I don't think that it's positive to. It's not a good thing to scream and shout at a guy who just doesn't immediately score a goal, right?
I hope he.
I don't think we'll be like that, but I know that there's people that have just and ahed from day one and like, yeah, okay, that's fair. It is a gamble. Let's see how it goes before we get cross about it. Like,
look, I hope he comes in. He scores. What we got? 16 games left.
Yep.
I don't know what's the reasonable amount of goals. 10, 11 goals seems pretty good.
Yep.
Hits the ground running, becomes a solid part of the team, and goes on and wins the World Cup with Canada. Great, whatever. Like, just happy days. Look, I mean, you're right. It's a gamble, and if there's criticism to be had, sure, point the finger. But for me, what we've asked for from a striker or as to get in is an experienced striker who can score goals, and ideally that, matches the profile that we're looking to play. And that's what they've gone and got. He's got experience, he's got goals in his past. Great. And if it takes a spark of coming to England to reignite, struggling for whatever reason, in where he's been. Great, happy days.
Yep. Sounds good. So that's my profile, mate. I hope you enjoyed. I hope everyone learned a little bit along the way. As per always, I have sent all of these sources to Greg. They will be in the description. If not, shout at us, because they definitely should be. A combination of lots of places, some of the easier ones like Wikipedia, because it's useful to have a big list of things. A transfer market, just because it's useful, which is why I always caveat everything with it's a grain of salt for some of the transfer stuff. It's difficult. Sometimes stuff just doesn't get told, but lots of other bits. There's stuff that I left out, like for example, Toronto talking about how they should have probably made a move for him, but it very much feels more like a couple of articles that are sort of fan based. It's like if I wrote an article and then tried to be like, yeah, this means this is happening, right? Exactly like we've talked about a couple of times where we've been linked to players because, like people like me and you, Greg, have talked about it, which is bizarre. It's just weird to think about. But yeah, so obviously have a look yourself if you want to. But I'm not as concerned as I initially was when I went, who is this guy? And I felt that way about a lot of the players that have joined us, to be honest. And yeah, okay, it's there's definitely been some ups and downs in his career. Hopefully his time with us will be an up, and that's all we can go for, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wonderful. Rightio. So now all the fun bit. Thank you for joining us today. We will be back tomorrow for our match preview against managerless Watford, who will be without one of their attacking players due to ascending off
managerless Watford, right? They're just that's their like constant state of being, isn't it?
True, but like we're really catching up with them, man. Like we can't. Like stones and glass houses come to mind, but tomorrow we will be previewing that game. Until then, we are on all of the social medias. We're on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on Blue Sky, we are on Instagram, we are on TikTok. There you go, got there in the end. As Greg likes to point out quite often, we're a newly independent Cogs podcast. We do this for the love of the game currently. We do a daily podcast and have done for a long time, pretty much for fun and for you guys. So thank you all for listening. Until that point, I'm just going to start shouting out local businesses I like. There's a coffee shop in Eastleigh called the Coffee Cabin. I go there quite a lot. It's a really nice place. Support your local businesses during a time where everything is kind of difficult for them. So yeah, we just appreciate your support. We appreciate you tuning in every day. And we'll be back tomorrow with a wonderful match preview to Watford. Until then, thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow. This is the Daily Saints Pod with Zach and Greg.